Welcome to Blind Abilities. I'm Simon Bonenfant. Navigating as a blind or visually impaired person can be challenging at times. Glide, a new mobility aid, aims to help you navigate with ease. Using a handle, two wheels, and cameras equipped with wayfinding technology, Glide works to navigate the user around obstacles, provides navigation to a specific route, and much more. I had the opportunity to try Glide for myself. Back in the virtual studio, I caught up with Amos Miller, founder and CEO of Glidance, to discuss the capabilities and evolution of the product, the opportunity to pre-order your own Glide, hopes for the future of navigation, and more. So without further ado, sit back, relax, and enjoy my conversation with Amos Miller, founder and CEO of Glidance.
Okay, Simon, so we have here an older prototype. It has some additional electronics that are powering the camera. And the first demo that we're going to do is an autonomous demo using the camera to follow a person.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another podcast episode. Today in the virtual studio, we're going to be talking about a new navigational aid that is coming out to the market soon and in the various development stages. We're going to be talking about Glidance. We're speaking with Amos Miller, the founder and CEO of Glidance. It's wonderful to have you on today, Amos.
Simon, thank you for having me. Excited to have the conversation with you. Yeah, talk about all our work at Glidance. Yep.
Great. So for those who are unfamiliar with Glidance, can you give us a quick overview of what it is?
Yeah, absolutely. Glidance is the name of the company, and we are working on a new mobility aid. It's a new mobility aid that uses autonomous self-driving technology to guide the way. Simon, you had a chance to try the device, so you can help me with the description because it's not always so easy to explain it. But in a sense, imagine there are two wheels on the ground. There's a long handle extending from the wheels. You hold onto that handle. You nudge the device forward, and as you walk forward, the wheels are about 2 feet in front of you, and they begin to steer the way a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right. They'll guide you around obstacles, keep you on a safe path. The device can guide you to targets that it can see, like dropped curbs, doors, elevators, and you can also program the device to guide you on a route, rather. Basically, the way it works is that it has a camera on the handle, and there's radars and various AI and robotics technology built into the device, all hidden away. It's very easy to use, so nothing to worry about, but it uses the latest in AI and robotics to help us navigate confidently.
Yes, and I'm glad you mentioned that. I had the opportunity to try this out for myself, and with a device like this, as you can all tell from the description, it's something that you really have to try in person, hands-on, to get a feel for yourself. I really enjoyed it, and in fact, I have some audio from that demonstration that I did.
So whenever you're ready, you can start to step forward. The device doesn't have any motors to drive the wheels. It relies on you to push the device.
Yeah, right, but I feel it moving.
Yep.
So I'm
pushing
pushing it just by walking and
Correct.
having my hand there. That's the mechanism. Oh, wow.
That's right.
Okay.
And so we're going to try
Doesn't feel like I'm doing a lot of work, but it's working.
I
mean,
try
it just,
a left turn.
okay.
That's perfect. Yep. So you felt it kind of turning you left.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was very impressed, Amos, with the way that it was really autonomous. When you talk about autonomous navigation, it does some of the heavy lifting. I mean, of course, we're doing the heavy lifting as users and control of where we want to go, but it does really take the lead on detecting obstacles and alerting us of a turn. And I believe, from what I can tell, and I know from what we spoke about before, there's a level of trust involved, right, with the device as it is giving you information and as you're responding to that information.
Trust is really at the core of the experience. And it might be worth, Simon, just giving your listeners a little bit of background as to why this device, as we often say, it's not a dog, it's not a cane, it's not Superman either. It's Glide. It's a different kind of mobility aid. if I can just give a bit of background, maybe to myself and how we arrived at this device to help people kind of get an understanding. My background is in computer science. I fell in love with computers at a very early age. And when I saw a computer for the first time, I think when I was 6 or 7 years old, I've had an enjoyable career, coding, engineering, building new products. I spent many years at Microsoft. Some of you might be familiar with my work on Soundscape while I was at Microsoft, which is one of the navigation apps. I'm also blind, so I lost my sight for retinitis pigmentosa in my 20s. And throughout my career, I've done all kinds of things, but I've always sort of come back to this question of how can technology and advancements in technology make a material difference to our ability to get around independently. I used to commute a lot. I lived in London. I used to commute across the city every day and looking for solutions, tried GPS apps and everything over the last 2 or 3 decades. And I really reached a sort of a moment of understanding that the cane is an amazing mobility aid. Guide dogs are amazing mobility animals. And when we build these technologies, we often really end up helping the people who are already out and about using their canes or dogs. But it turns out that there are a lot of people out there who are less confident and still rely on sighted assistance a lot, right? And through my research, I tried augmented reality and audio and haptics. Soundscape was all about audio augmented reality. I really reached this conclusion that what we need in order to help somebody who's not confident out and about, what we need in order to help them get around is something that is physically connected to the ground and physically guides, which when I say it kind of sounds obvious. But if you look at the different technologies that we have at our disposal today, it's very not obvious. So really, that's what Glide has become, this device that is connected to the ground on 2 wheels, right? You walk, it is guiding. You don't have to interpret any information. You don't have to listen to things that are happening in your ear, like into instructions and so on. You basically walk. And it's guiding you, and it's avoiding obstacles, and if there's people in the way, it guides around them. And my goal really with this device is to make it really easy. Bring this amazing technology that we have and make it really easy for people to get around. And I think that the response that we've been getting from the community, and I would say that we are deliberately developing this device out in the open with the community, and we can talk a little bit later about how people can get involved and engaged. But if you go to our website, glidance.io and so on, we are doing everything in the open. We'll tell you exactly where we are in the development. We get lots of questions and insight and input into the developments because this is a new future. The assistive device of this nature has not existed before, and we want to make sure that we get it right.
Yeah, I really like the point that you made about the human experience with you being a blind person yourself and you having that knowledge of so many years of experience being out in the world and independent, as you mentioned, and using your own experience, but also the lived experiences of other people who maybe have had different encounters, different situations that help the development of this product that you maybe wouldn't think about.
Oh, yeah. We get them every day. We really do. I mean, the kind of questions that people bring up in the type of environments that they're in and issues of safety, like, a whole area that we haven't really thought about that has been coming up even in the conventions. People are asking questions like, what happens if I'm walking along with somebody else who's using Glide? Like, how do we stay together? Or even if we are all sitting in someone's house and there's 2 glides, 3 glides around, how do we know whose glide is whose?
Yeah, right.
I mean, these are really interesting questions, right? Let alone the big questions for which we don't have obvious answers to, like if this is a new mobility aid, how does that fit in? How does the public interpret what it is? How do people, they see you walking around with this cool futuristic thing, but what is it? Like, what is it? Who are you? Why? Like with the cane, people know to get out of the way, or at least yield. Glide is going to be something new. And I think all of these questions are for us as a community to figure out.
Yeah. And one of the things that you mentioned, which I experienced at the convention, is that this is not supposed to be used in conjunction with the cane or the guide dog. So the Glide is the primary mobility aid. And one of the things that the cane does, one of the primary things in terms of when it detects obstacles in front or left, right, things like that, is it alerts us of those obstacles. And then we are the ones that are interpreting what we do from there. How does Glide work if you want to know what an obstacle is, or if you're in a situation where you're using an obstacle for navigational help? If it's skipping that, is there a chance that we wouldn't even know that something's there that we may need to find? Or how does it work with the balance of the autonomy while also give information of just what's around us?
This is a great question.
Yeah, essentially, if there's space to just go around obstacles, it will do that first. Otherwise, if it has to put on the brakes, it will.
So that also includes if I'm coming up against an obstacle, then, right? Would it do that? Like
most of the time,
it's
it
in
would
my
try
way,
to, yeah, it would try to go around. But if it has to put on the brakes, it'll apply the brake.
So let me say a few things here, right? So Glide, in addition to the cameras and the navigational capabilities, it also has a speaker and voice input output. You can speak to the device can speak back to you. That was not in the demo that you experienced. That will come in the next version of the prototype. But voice interaction and voice information is something that people have been asking about and inquiring about. Also haptics. So providing haptic information through the handle. We have like haptic vibrations on either side of the handle so that we can provide symbols about things that are happening. If you need to slow down, speed up, there's an obstacle on the right, on the left, or we're about to do a sharp turn to the right or to the left. You know, there's a lot of information that can be conveyed between the audio with voice, sound, and haptics. Now the question is, how do we want to use it? Because the device can detect those obstacles. Not only detect them, the device can figure out what they are. Like if it's a tree, it'll recognize it as a tree. If it's a bench, it'll recognize it as a bench. If it's a door, then it's a door. Yeah. And now the question is, how do we want to use that information? In some cases, like if you're a guide dog user, you have this problem today, right? You walk around, you walk along a sidewalk, you never encounter these obstacles. You never know that they're there. You might be walking next to a most beautiful statue every day on your commute that you never knew was there. That happened to me. Yeah, in London, and people say, "Oh, you work next to this thing," and I didn't even know it was there. But Glide can inform you of those kind of landmarks, and whether it's an obstacle or just something that you want to be aware of. And I think that's something that will be a combination of preferences and tuning, right? Because you don't want something that is overly chatty. You might want to turn on extra verbosity when you're in an unfamiliar place or in a particular area where you're using certain landmarks for navigation, and turn it off in other places where you're just walking from your home to the bus stop or the local store or inside your building in your office where you really don't want Glide to say anything. You're fine.
Right. You also mentioned too that kind of parallel with the human interaction of when we might be being guided by another person and they might give details about things or not give details about things depending on the situation. And I remember I had one time where I was teaching someone about doing sighted guide and how it worked, and they started narrating everything that was around and going very slowly. And I said, you don't
Okay,
have
let's
to do
start
that.
over.
You can, yeah, you don't have to do that. So yeah, you're right. That is something that again we'd have to balance out with a device while also giving very targeted information that would keep us safe as well, such as if there were steps, if there was a drop of some kind or some kind of situation, the user would have to alter what they're doing.
Yeah, and one of the things I learned from my work on Soundscape in the past is how valuable is information that is not necessarily relevant or functional, right? I'll give you a funny story. In one of our early studies that we did with Soundscape, we took a blind lady along a walk somewhere, and she crossed the road and she continued to walk along the sidewalk, and Soundscape announced steps on the left, that there were steps going into the park. And she turned at me and said, "Why do I need to know about these steps?" Okay. A week later, we did the same walk, and we removed that call out. And she crossed that road. She walked along the sidewalk, and she was, "Why is it not calling the steps? I don't know where I am now." Right? Right? I mean, there is information there that is just useful for us for orientation, right? And for the flow. And so that's where I think tuning will be important. I also think we have to see how people end up using the device in conjunction with other things. Like, I fully imagine that Glide will be used in conjunction with a navigation app that you like, whether it's Soundscape or Blind Square or just Google Maps or Lazarillo or other things. Maybe we'll see other new developments, with the capabilities that are coming on board with GPT and AI, where it can give you live narration of what you see around you. Like, it doesn't all have to be done by Glide. I mean, I can perfectly imagine other technologies over the months and years coming on board. So we'll have to see, how much do you actually want Glide to do this versus other things, Meta glasses and so on.
Or there's the possibility that maybe these apps or some of the features of the apps could get integrated with Glide with the device, if it would be
exactly. I mean, one of the
used.
benefits is that Glide has a camera that's always on and facing forward, right? And it can see everything. It has the ability to infer where you are and what it is, and connection to maps, and if that could be beneficial to an app, right? I think there's really interesting potential integrations here.
Can you talk about Soundscape for those that are not familiar with what that is?
So Soundscape, to a certain extent, history, but Soundscape was an app that I developed while I was at Microsoft. It uses spatial audio that you wear as stereo headsets, and as you walk down the street, you'd hear what's around you in 3D space. So if Starbucks comes up on your right, you'd hear the word Starbucks in front of you and to the right. Used an audio engine that places audio in 3D. It's really has become one of the leading navigation apps. It doesn't really, when we worked on it in Soundscape, it wasn't about providing turn-by-turn directions. It was more about being aware of your surroundings, where everything is. You'd walk up to an intersection, it'll give you the layout of the intersection. This road is on the left, this road is ahead, this one is to the right. So you really have a good sense for where you are at all times. And we also used something called an audio beacon to navigate, where you hear that sound emanating from the direction where you're headed to. And if you chose a restaurant, you'll hear that bell sound from the direction where the restaurant is, and you basically walk towards it. That is still being used by a lot of people. Microsoft since closed that project, but in open source code, and there's now 2 variants that I'm aware of the product. One is called Voice Vista, which has gone more down the path of turn-by-turn directions, and Soundscape Community, which is, I guess, in many ways more true to the original vision of Soundscape. But it's something that complements, it's a secondary navigation app that complements our experience when we're out and about. And I think the main step with Glide is that Glide is not an augmented aid. It really is a primary mobility aid coming alongside this guide dog or the cane, really giving people other options.
I can see the similarities between just the goal of getting the information and the exact location, being as precise as possible to get users to the exact location.
I have a different prototype. This one is a little bit shaky.
Okay.
In front of you, we have a little obstacle course. There's a line of chairs on the left. There's a wall on the right and 2 big boxes in the middle.
So can you talk about some of the processes that went into what we see as Glide right now? I know that there's going to be a lot of iterations of this, but you're at a juncture where you just started doing pre-orders, and we'll mention that in a few minutes. But can you just talk a little bit about the process and maybe some of the challenges that went into developing Glide and some things that you had to adjust to and adapt to along the way?
Yeah, I know lots in that question. I mean, first of all, just to clarify, is to kind of strengthen the point you made, Soundscape and many navigation apps can only be as precise as the GPS or location services that the phone can give and the data that they get. And if you use the camera of the phone, you get some more precision. And I think one of the things that my learning from that is not only do we need something physical to guide if we want to be precise, but if I put a camera and radars and if I have wheels that I can measure every millimeter of movement of the wheels, I can get to very, very high precision in location. Yeah, I can see everything around in front of the user. I can see exactly where the door is. I can see exactly what the path is to that door with the device. I can calculate the best path to guide the user, and I can guide the user on that path in a very precise way that I think is almost impossible to do with a phone. It's almost impossible to do with anything that's on your body, just because our body doesn't respond. When you walk, even let's say as a sighted person, we often think about the straight line, right? How blind people, when they walk, they can't keep to a straight line because there isn't that feedback loop, right? A sighted person can walk a straight line because they see the surrounding, they see the line, and they make the tiniest of corrections all the time in order to stay on that line. Yeah, they take a step, take another step. They don't pay any attention to those corrections. But as a blind person, because you don't have the feedback loop, you don't make those tiny corrections so you end up veering to the left or to the right. These are kind of micro responses. And I, at this stage, do not believe that with haptic feedback or with audio feedback, we can feed back enough information at a fast enough to the human brain in order to make those corrections. And that's why we need something that is externalized, that's connected to the ground, because now we can make those tiny corrections because we feel it. We feel it through the hand. We feel where the device is going. It's just like walking with a sighted guide. And that's really the step forward, I think, that we're seeing with this device. In terms of the process and where we are with development, we are very much still in product development. So there isn't a product now that is called Glide that somebody can come and have a look and touch and use and buy. It's still in concept, but we have a number of prototypes of the device. When you came to the NFB convention, you were able to see we had 3 prototypes in the demonstration. 2 prototypes that demonstrated a number of building blocks around the navigation, where you were able to experience how Glide guides you around obstacles and allows you to indicate which way you want to go, but Glide kept you safe and avoiding obstacles along the way. So that's safe wayfinding. And the other one was how Glide is able to detect line of sight targets. In the demo, Glide detected a person and guided you towards that person. Right. And the third prototype that we showed was really the physical design of Glide, where we were able to show how the product is going to look physically and how it's going to feel. It has big all-terrain wheels. Big, I mean 7 or 8 inches. We haven't finalized on the size, but there's not tiny wheels. There's a good-sized wheels, rubber. They will go on outdoor spaces, on cracked pavements, on gravel path. It's a fairly compact device. It's solidly built. It folds with a telescopic handle. So we showed you a design which we call Marie. If you hear that word, that's the design that we're working to at the moment. And the next stage of that is that we bring all of these pieces together into one device that is our alpha version of Glide. And that really is the first time that there will be a fully integrated product that is called Glide. It's going to be an alpha version that we will be taking out to test with people who are involved in the development, bring it to their homes and really try it out in the real world. Based on the feedback from Alpha, and Alpha we expect to finish at the end of August. Based on the feedback from Alpha, we're going into what's called the beta program, which will start around November. where we will look to test, to actually have people take the device home for a period of time, a week, 2 weeks, experience it. And based on all the feedback we get from beta, we expect to be able to start rolling out and shipping devices in September of 2025. So it's still just over a year away before the devices will be ready. So that's sort of a broad time frame and where we are with the product. Challenges, plenty of. One of the things that you learn, my background has been in software, and Glide is very much hardware. Building hardware is a completely different ballgame to building software. That's why I have Kyle Buzzard, who's my co-founder on the team, and he's a hardware expert. He's an industrial designer. He's done work at Google and has done a bunch of work in other places, building consumer devices and consumer products, hardware products. And so that's been a really interesting learning on how Glide is fundamentally powered by software, right? It's all AI and robotics and a bit like a Tesla vehicle, but it has a physical element to it, which is the device itself. So it's a really amazing experience to build this kind of device, get all the feedback from everyone, make some interesting design decisions along the way, see how the capabilities evolve, and work towards making the device available.
Okay, great. So you mentioned many aspects of this, and
Yes.
One of the things that I know has started, as I said a few minutes ago, is the pre-order process. So you are now open for pre-orders, and I'm glad that you mentioned a few other things that would have to happen before that so that listeners would get a bit of a timeline of what to expect for those that have pre-ordered the device or who are going to. Can you tell folks where they can go to either pre-order the device if the window for pre-ordering is still open, or where they can check the status of where you are in that process?
Yes. First of all, the place to place pre-orders there is glidance.io. So glidance.io. Basically, the word glidance comes from the word guidance, but with an L instead of the U. So glidance.io, and you'll see a banner on the page to pre-order the device. The retail price of Glide is $1,499, so $1,500 basically. But pre-orders, you get a 30% discount on that. So it's $1,049. Now, there is a subscription associated with Glide to access the software and AI capabilities. We are locking that at $20 a month for people who pre-order the device. That might change once for people who buy it later on. You can subscribe once you get the device, or you can also purchase a year in advance, and those options are presented on the website as well. I just want to make a few points clear, though. I don't recommend that people go and pre-order just for the sake of pre-ordering. I think people come to pre-order. This is really about backing the project and about if you are excited about this kind of device and you feel that it's going to make a difference in your life, and you believe in the direction that we are going in, and you'd like to back the project and be involved in the development of Glide, provide feedback, be engaged with questions, challenge us, give us a hard time, then come and pre-order. You don't have to, though. You can just register with us and be informed about progress as well. We will have limited pre-order slots. Over the coming few weeks, we will be sharing what our goals are. That information will be provided on our website and on our emails. But our goal is to, once we have a certain number of pre-orders, we want to make sure that when the device rolls out, everybody has a really great experience with the device. So we're going to go slow in the beginning, make sure that people who have pre-ordered the device understand how to use it, that we fix any problems, any teething issues that occur in the beginning before we start to scale it and open the floodgates after that.
And you also mentioned that there is an opportunity for beta testing that you're going to be doing coming up. If somebody would be interested in communicating with you about that, how would they do that?
Yeah, we haven't really defined the criteria around beta testing. What I recommend is, first of all, go onto the website, register with us. There's a registration page at the bottom of every page. Just put in your name, email. First of all, you'll start to get updates about the product. You'll also be invited to, we do monthly Zoom calls where you can meet and engage with our engineering team, product team, and we always have very rich discussions and conversations on that call with many, many people about where we are, about the challenges, about the questions that people have. So this is a great way to engage. There's also, if you do register, you'll be getting a questionnaire about your own situation. And then nearer the time, we will make it clear how to get involved in the beta. I would say that a lot of people are asking to be involved in the beta. So we really are excited with the opportunity.
Oh, that's great. And I would also recommend, as you mentioned, that people register and attend your community calls that you have monthly, because it really is a way to stay on top of the project, get your voice heard, your opinion expressed. And especially if you haven't had a chance to see the product and you might not for a long time, this might be a way that you can still give feedback and be involved in the project.
And ask the questions, right? Sometimes it's the questions that matter the most, that force us to think about things that we haven't thought. We definitely don't have answers to all the questions. As you said earlier, sometimes we don't even know what questions to ask. So we really appreciate the level of involvement we've had with the community. The more the merrier.
Yes, absolutely. Well, Amos, speaking of questions, I'd like to thank you for answering my questions today. Thank you,
Simon, thank you
for taking the time to come on to Blind Abilities and talk about Glide and what you're doing. I wish you much success in the future. And I really believe in the work that you're doing, and I feel like it can make a difference to many people. And I was very excited to check out the device at the convention. And yeah, hopefully a year from now, we'll be almost ready for that release, as you mentioned. So,
well, if anything, I can't wait for the device to be ready.
There you go.
So there you are. Yeah. No, thank you, Simon. Really appreciate it.
In this case, it would say there's a person in the way.
Right.
Another example might be you've reached a curb or something like that.
Yeah, because I think that's one of the things that the cane really helps with, is the fact of just knowing what's there, like that there is something there, but then also what the texture would be. But with this, if it's actually telling me, that's the most accurate, really, because it's seeing that. I mean,
Yep.
So is the idea behind this ultimately that you're trying to give the same feedback that a person would be able to give, that would be guiding someone?
It's meant to be a primary mobility aid.
Right. Okay.
So we'll use the technology essentially to paint the picture of the scene, give you feedback on obstacles, also help you find targets.
Right.
So for example, let's say you enter a hotel lobby. You could say, Glide, find the front desk. And it will start scanning to try to find that. As soon as it can see it, it'll take that as a target and guide you to that target.
Oh, wow.
The other way that it could work is you enter a hotel, you want to know your options, so you could click the button. Glide would, for instance, say something like front desk, elevator, couch. You could select the one you want, and then it would take you to whichever one you select.
Wow, that is so cool.
I had such a wonderful time speaking with Amos. I hope you enjoyed listening as well. If you missed any of the information in the audio, it's all there in the show notes for you. And if you'd like to contact me directly, send me an email. I can be reached at sbonefant2@gmail.com. That's SBONENFANT, the number 2@gmail.com. Thanks for listening and have a wonderful day.
For more podcasts with a blindness perspective, check us out on the web at www.blindabilities.com, on Twitter at blindabilities, and download the free Blind Abilities app from the App Store and Google Play Store. That's 2 words, Blind Abilities. And if you want to leave some feedback, give us some suggestions, give us a call at 612-367-6093. We'd love to hear from you. I want to thank you for listening, and until next time, bye-bye.
When we share
what we see through
each other's eyes, we can then begin to bridge the gap
between the limited expectations and the reality of blind abilities.
And the realities of blind abilities.